大家好，我是 Crazy 老师。
我是 Chris。
我们现在都很累然后不好意思，我们迟到了。为什么我们迟到了？
不知道，你有课吗
？I was in a class。你呢？
我和我的电脑说话，
为什么？
因为我在用那个Chat GPT。
哦，你在跟 Chat GPT 聊天？你们
我在问他怎么学习土耳其语。
他有好主意吗？对，有好主意不错，好。所以今天 we're actually talking about how to become fluent like in a foreign language. So now Chris have a solution for you.
Well, actually, I was just looking up specific things, like, what's the difference between this and this? 因为在网上有很多很多的 like information，所以我找有的好的，有的不好的，但是看起来像 Chat GPT，好的，可以说这个和这个怎么不一样？
有什么不一样？对
ChatGPT 可以告诉我是这样，是这样。会给我比方说等。
对，
我觉得不错。
Lisa 好，Lisa 你用过 ChatGPT 吗？我想用，我想过几次，可是每次我去打开，他都说 ChatGPT 很忙，所以我还没有用所以大家也可以试一试Whenever you have questions like, oh, what's the difference between 发现 and 发生，so you can try the ChatGPT. Prash 你好。刚刚我们在说你们有没有用过 ChatGPT 你们也可以用 ChatGPT 试一试那现在 back to our original topic
意思没有。
没有没
It
用
goes into our current topic.
I know, but it's something new. You're something you are still experimenting with. So, what language are you fluent in? Foreign language. What foreign language?
Spanish.
Spanish. 对。
I mean, I can speak other languages, but I wouldn't say I'm fluent per se.
对然后
But enough to get around, do everything I need to. I don't have to have a discussion about politics in most languages. So.
对。然后我的话，我会说是英文我英文流利，对。然后你是西班牙语。Now, what about Prash and Lisa? What foreign language are you fluent in? Hola, Chris.
¿Qué
¿Tú
tal?
puedes hablar también? como muy bien. 所以你们对怎么说？中文怎么说？哎呀，对，你们哪个语言也是流利的？我觉得我不会说中文了。对，就是
太多的阿拉伯语。
不是，就是太多的别的语言sometimes definitely mess up with the way I speak Chinese. Like 我说中文怎么说 and sometimes I use like direct translation, which doesn't work as you see.
你只会说英文。
不是，哎呀，就是中文对不对？你可以说，哎，你会说什么语言？因为会是 for mastering，对吧？你会说什么外语？对的，我看 Lisa 说只是英文，只是英文，我也会英文，
我也会。
对，现在说一说。So for me, to become fluent in English is quite different from like all the other languages I'm learning. 因为在中国，我们在学校要学英文。So definitely I've learned a lot about English, words, grammar, reading, listening, like all kind of exercises in my school curriculum already. So 对的。Now, what about your Spanish? How did you become fluent in Spanish?
I mean, I think I had 1 or 2 classes in like maybe I think I had one in middle school and one in high school, and then I went to Bolivia for a year, where I was living in with a family, so a host family who didn't really speak English.
That's good.
My classes were all in Spanish, so I mean, within a week, I was pretty good at Spanish.
Because
and then within a month, I would say I was fluent.
Because you have more opportunities to speak.
Yeah, it was just like sink or swim. Nobody's speaking English, so.
I don't know if I agree with your sink or swim, because if you didn't learn Spanish at all and then you are putting that you are now going to swim, you're going to learn, but I don't think it's going to be as effective. So yeah, I think if you learn, I know a lot of you learn Chinese on your own, right? And like you learn, you do lots of listening, you do lots of exercising, and then giving the opportunity to practice is gonna help like a lot. Otherwise, you're just gonna.
Yeah, it definitely helps if you get to like this threshold, like the minimum you need to get around. But I think you can still pick up a lot just from being in that environment, and it's not so much.
Continue.
It's not so much like being in the full environment. I'm going out in the street, but if you have a host family per se, they're trying to use easier language with you or explain. They're taking more time, not necessarily like the people in the street.
Actually, you remind me of a TED Talk I watched. They're saying you can master any language in 6 months if you follow his like method, right? But his method, of course, is very hard to realize. So one of the things they say is to find a language parents. So like you said, like your host parents. Yeah, you saw the same video. I don't know if you have watched it, but probably too, if you're interested in learning language. So yeah,
it's pretty much you start with just the basic nouns that you need, then you start throwing in some verbs, later some adjectives and connector words. But yeah, one of his big points was you need to find a language parent, and the key to this is that they can't speak your language, or they don't speak it very well. So the language that you both have the most in common with is the target language, the one you're trying to learn.
对. Otherwise, we'll end up in the same thing. Like sometimes you come to my language exchange, you'll definitely notice you're gonna speak both languages, like because they understand English. If I'll try it in Chinese one time and nobody responds, and then I'll explain myself in English. So then, as I said, it kind of ruined the purpose of practicing, right?
Yeah. Well, and that's why with my students, even though I can often speak at least some of their languages, I try not to. I try to explain it just in English. And then if they still don't get it after like a couple minutes, I'm like, okay, it's this in your language. They're like, oh, okay, now all the makes sense.
Yeah, so I guess one thing I kind of admire you is when you're right now, we about the same time we start to learn another language. I learn Arabic and you learn Turkish, right? And then for now I'm still like I'm not talking to people. Well, only yes, let's say I'm not talking to people.
She can ask them how much, and she can say a few numbers.
Well, I can say a lot of basic information, but nobody asks me those, like where you live, what's your name.
So obviously those aren't important.
Then those are not that important. Or like go to order in the restaurant, I can say those things, but it looks like I just need to point at things. But anyway, I'm still I'm still not practicing like speaking, right? But Chris, you have already started like speaking, like talking to people, like in Turkish. So how do you have the courage to just like let me talk, before I know like.
So I guess before I go to actually talk with someone, I kind of have an idea of what I want to talk about. For example, in Turkey, right, they're having this huge earthquake right now. And so I might look up a few words about earthquake, like how do you say earthquake? How do you say like dead, missing, things like this, so that these are words I wouldn't have known otherwise. So
对对对
I kind of write a few words up there so that I have an idea.
那说 Abby 对 Abby 你说的对，就我要这个。
Yeah, so I'll have kind of a script, and then I also have like Google Translate on the side. So if we still don't know something, I can just quickly type it, and it's this, right? But
对对对
and as time goes by, I don't need it as much, and I don't know. I find reading the news helps a lot. Reading it in
啊，
Turkish.
对，可以了。对，就是就像刚刚 Abby 说的，就是对 ，like in Chinese maybe you just need to learn 我要这个，but the problem
这个吃错在哪里？
对，但是有一个问题就是上个星期我们去吃饭，我点菜，我说了，哎，我要这个，还有这个，然后they talked back to me. But I think they talked back to me in French, so I didn't understand. So I just assumed, okay, they got it. 然后我和 Chris 吃了一盘鱼我们吃完了。吃完了以后，我们在等我们的第二个菜。我们等了有30分钟、40分钟。然后我问那个老板，那个菜在哪里？然后他说我们没有这个菜。对，所以我觉得点菜 like you need to understand how to order, but also understand when they say we don't have this.
I think it's also part paying attention, because I think you were like, I'm ordering this, 我要这个，然后我就这个。And I think while you were like going to the next thing, he was going like, 没有. And then you order the next one already without looking at his input. So he was just like, oh, okay, this is what she wants instead of that.
Oh, yes, and also I don't understand a word in French, so... But anyway, so we end up just having one plate of food and wasting our time.
For the record, I told her multiple times, I don't think it's coming. I think he said it's not coming. I wasn't really paying attention.
You see, but despite that, he didn't.
But
ask
she
them.
swore up and down.
Okay,
She's
that's
like,
enough, Chris.
He definitely got it. Of course, it's coming. And
对，然后我想 back to our topic. I'm serious. Like it took me a long time in English for me to be able to feel like to speak English, because I said I learned English in school where we're trained a lot on listening, reading, speaking, not so much speaking, writing, all the others, right, for the test. So I was doing really well on those. But when it comes to speaking, because I never really talked to any foreigner before I went to college, I always feel like how do you say, timid, like scared, right? 很怕说中文no 说中文说英文很怕，非常怕。可是有一次有一个外国人来中国，这个外国人不说中文，他只说英文和阿拉伯语。But I didn't speak any Arabic back then, right? 所以我们去北京去上海的时候只能说英文。But it's just those few days, like just speaking English to someone, right? And then you see, oh, you did it. Like people can understand you. That gives me, I guess, like confidence. Like from then on, it kind of like, oh, now I open the door of like talking to people. So that experience of speaking with someone who can only speak their target language, like helps a lot. So like back to the tips, right? You need to find someone who doesn't know your language, who speaks, just English, but that would be pretty hard too.
Yeah, it's difficult for English speakers because so many people around the world can at least speak some English, and even if they only speak a little, it's probably better than your ability in the target language. So,
对， so,
even though they say, oh, it's so...
Yeah, I know, but I think one thing helpful is if you're having a language partner, you set up the expectations like, oh, please don't speak English to me. Please explain, in Chinese. Please use, pictures, use gestures, use, words, and that will help you to improve your speaking fluency.
Yeah, and you can also partition your time. So when I'm doing Turkish, I usually say, okay, we're going to do 15 minutes in English, 15 minutes in Turkish. Or when I do it in Spanish, okay, we're going to do 30 minutes in English, 30 minutes in Spanish, so that the expectation is, okay, we're not going to use the language, like the other language.
对对对。
Except
One question I want to ask everybody who is still listening is how did you find a way to learn the language consistently? I think that's really the key for like your not final success. Like if your goal is to be fluent, right? You really need to put into like this effort continuously, like just like the water, constantly running and running, and eventually, you can have a swimming pool. So like how do you do that? Like what way for you like works? Yeah. What about you?
I would say yes, it needs to be continuous, but you need to change it up. Like, don't just try Duolingo for 3 years. You're not going to be able to speak the language.
Yeah, no, yeah, you always like switch up things. Like you don't just like depend on one
Some
method.
people do. Some people are like, I will learn Spanish and I will be on Duolingo, like you. Right?
I don't just use Duolingo, Chris.
No, my sister-in-law.
Okay.
Right. She's been learning Spanish for I don't know how many years on Duolingo, and I don't think she can really speak anything in Spanish, and it's not going to happen. So change it up. So yes, you can use Duolingo, but use it for practice.
Yeah, like practice is building the streaks with Duolingo, and also listening and taking classes. So yeah, you can never rely on just one thing. Like even let's say I have money, I have time, and I can take classes.
Non-stop classes with Crazy Lush.
Well, I actually did that. Like
24/7.
I did like not nonstop. I did like all you can take Spanish classes, and that helps a lot. But still, you need to like study, right? To kind of like let's see. Lisa, you don't know the answer, but you have been learning Chinese all this time. 然后 let's see. Yeah, Abby, I totally agree with you. It's so frustrating when you're speaking the language and then the other person is like, 什么? like they don't understand. Yeah.
But that's when body language starts getting in. Like I feel I can talk with people from like any country with just my hands. And it's fun for them too. They see it as a game, as a show. So they're like, oh, I want to see what this crazy foreigner is going to do. Like it's like playing charades with them because I don't know, but it's bathroom.
Yeah, I think that's something you are really good at doing too. Not everybody, can just like mix. I don't know, be silly. I think really like if you want to learn a foreign language, well, you need to be like be silly, like be able to like it's okay. I'm doing all this, silly things with to make myself understood, not just rely on the sound of the language. I guess right. If like Abby, I think we are probably at this early stage. Like when at the earliest stage, it's the hardest one, right? Because that's the time where you feel like most. I guess that's the time when you feel most frustrated. You feel like I don't have any words to grab on, and let's see, for Lisa just to try to speak as much. Yeah, and I think what is it? Back to the. I guess if you want to speak as early as possible, what do you think is the key?
So I guess for me, something I've noticed that I do that a lot of people maybe don't is I imagine a conversation. I'll just be like laying down on a bed or in a chair, and I just learn some words in, let's say, Turkish about whatever food, right? And I will imagine myself ordering food, and I will be imagining both sides of the conversation. And this helps because I also see, oh, here are some pockets in my knowledge. I don't know what that is. Let me look it up on my phone. Or again, before I do a language exchange, maybe I will imagine the conversation, kind of run through it.
So you do that. I guess one thing for me is let's say if I'm creating a course, for complete beginners, and I do want them to be able to start speaking, start responding like really soon. The key is really to learn all those high frequency verbs, right? Like I think
So
like
in English, I'll do like I am, because you can use that with so many different things. I have, I want.
I like.
Yeah, I like. That's not even as important.
Well, yeah, but yeah.
I am, I have, I want. And it's not necessarily the same in all languages, right? Because I am, like 我是 in Chinese, you don't use 是 nearly as often as you do in English.
Yeah, so then you just need to know, right? You know, like, I happy, I mad. You need to know the structure. So once you know those, you can express a lot of things, like 这个那个, right? All those words, like or something or things, right? So then you can express a lot without like having the specific vocabulary.
Well, and usually when you're trying to speak, you are expressing your desires anyway. So I am, I want, I have. Those are the main things you're going to focus on. You don't necessarily need to say like, oh, I like to ride bikes or something on your first day. You can work up to that. But the main things that you're going to use when you're in another country are like those three. So figure out what are the most important verbs and then start using those.
Yes.
And then you can add a verb.
I think Abby and Lisa both actually addressed the problem of like when you're actually using it. Yeah, you're right. It doesn't come like very easily, especially if it's your like first time or the first, let's say 100 times. No, not 100 times. That's too much. First 10 times. It will always be like really, really, really painful. Like it doesn't come, or it takes so long to come. But really, each time you speak, each time I sometimes I feel like I talk about the same topic maybe 100 times or something, but with the different people, right? It does come more and more natural. Like you will see you're using less and less effort to retrieve like those words.
我觉得也是你不应该害怕。Like for anything, whether you're going to ride a bike, you're learning to swim, you're learning to ski, learning a language is the same. If you are scared, it's going to take you like 5 times as long. If you're not scared of making a fool of yourself, falling down, you're going to learn it much faster.
对对对，我 also noticed this, like a lot of my students like to do this is even before they finish their sentence, they're already checking with me. Like, do I say it this way? It's like, sometimes me, like I want to help you, but I cannot help you until you tell me like the whole sentence. Because, let's say Chris just said fall down. Now, if you just ask me fall down, I have 10 different versions for you. So I can't help you unless you tell me, oh, what? Like sometimes he will say like some foolish things that I don't understand, right? But then based on the context, then I can give you feedback. And then, next time you can practice the word you learned. So really, I agree with you. You need to clear that fear, and so that you can just get the words out, even if it's wrong.
Yeah. Well, and make a whole sentence, a whole idea. And that's the same thing like when I'm teaching, they might say 5 things wrong in one sentence. But if it's at least a whole idea, I'll be like, okay, let's go on. We can work with this. I won't try to correct every little thing because then they just get frustrated. As long as you can convey meaning, that's enough for a start.
And now I actually want to ask all of you, how do you make yourself understood? I know a lot of you learn Chinese, right? And a lot of my Chinese fans will be learning English. How do you make yourself understood when you're talking to someone in the foreign language? Like for myself, if you're advanced learners especially, definitely use, how do you say, like instead of say, let's say airplane, right? You'll say, oh, something that flies in the sky. Like you'll try to find a way to use simpler words to explain things, like in the target language. Yeah. Yeah, circumlocution, you're right. OK 然后对 Fresh 说了 a lot of gestures 对对对 That's why telephone call is the hardest like in conversation because you can't say their face, you can't see any gestures. So yes, use lots of gestures.
We have this game in English called Taboo, where it's, for example, sunglasses. This is the word you want them to say. And then it says you can't say sunglasses. Of course, you can't say sun, you can't say glasses. But in addition, you can't say maybe bright, and you can't say
really?
Something like that. So there's like a list of maybe 3 or 4 words that you're not allowed to say, and you have to get the audience to do it. And that is a great game for language learning.
Yeah, I agree with you. And let's see. So visual takes a long time to learn. Yeah, yes. Well, for me too. I learned. How long have you learned Arabic? Like
I don't know. I mean, like, you were learning before.
Seven.
Before I ever met you.
No, it's like 7. 真的没有. But anyway, it's like 7 months, right? And as I said, I probably just talk to. If I like a conversation, I actually talk to like let's say 3 people.
Well, it's also difficult with Arabic because there's so many different forms. So and especially Morocco, they speak Darija, which has a very, very strong influence from European languages. Lots of Arabic speakers don't even understand Darija, so it's not necessarily fair to compare, especially since you haven't been learning Darija.
对对对，然后让我等一下啊，我看看这里you're asking like a serious websites or apps to meet native people your age who speak Chinese. Well, yes.
Chinese, download WeChat.
Well, the direct way, right, is download WeChat, but can you hold
everyone
on
in China uses
yeah,
WeChat.
But WeChat is kind of hard. So now I'm gonna give you a list of apps you can try. And later I'll probably make a video about them too. Yes, Tandem, yeah, Fresh, yeah. If you know like any apps you can share like in there too. So yeah, Tandem is a good one. And I know for Chinese, Hello Talk is a good one. And that one I think have more Chinese people on it because a lot of the apps Chinese people in China cannot use them. But Hello Talk for sure. And I know on Tandem there's native speakers of Chinese too. And I'm using Interpulse is another one. And what else? I know I've tried like quite a few because I like to like find people to talk to too. And Bilingua is another one. All of this they're similar, like really. And for now, I think Tandem and Hello Talk they are more commercialized because they they want your money and stuff. But yeah, but
He's talking about Busu.
Yeah, Busu. Yes, Busu. I like that aspect about Busu. But Busu is more of an app where you can learn the language and also have people like correct you. Yes, yeah, I like that part. Like, if you speak something, maybe there will be community, people to correct you. Yeah, so those you can try. To find people and do language exchange. And another thing, I know I have a lot of Chinese learners. English learners. They actually want to find language partner too. So if you have, you're serious and you can send me your profile, I guess I can share your contact with them. But again, if you want to talk to native speakers, most of them are on WeChat. So, have an app.
But how do you find people on WeChat?
Well, if you have WeChat, then you can tell those native speakers. Like,
So if you already know them. But I think their question was more, how do you find them in the first place?
I know, but I mean, you have those
There
apps
are
to try.
groups and whatnot on WeChat, but if you are talking to them, you will probably need to use WeChat at some point. 微信，他们多用微信。
对对对，在中国都用微信。怎么说呢？Well, eventually, if your goal is to practice with native speakers, WeChat will be the final try. But for now, just chant the tandem, hello talk, interpose. I think that those are just similar things. You can try out, see like which one you like the best. Yeah.
But it's definitely better if you get to that threshold where you can at least say a few things, because otherwise, if you don't know anything, they're going to try to teach you like bopo mofu.
No,
like sounds, and it's ridiculous.
Yeah, there are some people there. Okay, they like to be a teacher.
I mean, they're not teachers.
They're trying.
They're trying to
help.
teach you the same way that they were taught when they were little, I guess, for like reading pinyin and things like that.
Well, again, so that's why you need to set up your expectations. Yeah, we can today I'm gonna end the conversation here, but we can talk more about like how to not only find a language partner, but also how to sustain like the relationship, and how to train your language partner so they can better help you. I'm serious. Yeah, 对的。Okay, so in the future, we can talk more on that. Okay? Yeah. 好啊。那对，我也要走了，大家再见。然后欢迎非常感谢大家来收听我们的双语脱口秀。那我们就下次见，大家再见。
再见。
对的。